Something I personally don't like is this hookup where it's like, even the word personally, I used to dislike the word, but then actually a friend of mine gave a different meaning to it. For me, when I this hookup is like a fish, and then it feels so very temporary when it's connections, when it's especially maybe intimate connections. I mean, you don't call it friends, but you are more intimate, you're lovers. I feel there needs to be more depth in that connection. It may be for an hour, it may be for a day, but personally for me, if it's an intimate partner, I want that to be depth. You don't have egos clashing. I don't go to bed with people whose egos, I can't do that, because life as it is so hard. But actually a friend of mine, because I when I was talking with her, she said, this word hookup, I said I don't like this word hookup, it feels so casual, it feels so, but then she was like, no, hookup, when you like, she comes from foreign background, and she was like, oh, when we say hookup, it actually means that, you don't define what happened there. It's a blanket label that says it could have been a kiss, it could have been downright, coitus, it could have been, anything in between. Just have fun, just be genuine, just be good, don't hurt each other.
As long as that real, genuine, heart-to-heart communication is there, and there's no space for guessing or assuming things. Communication. I know so many people who get into those kind of situations and the communication isn't there, and then it becomes difficult. And so if it's causing like a negative emotional impact, then people need to kind of think about it and say, maybe we need to rework the negotiation, or it's all about negotiation as well, right? So we have all these terms. There's, friends with benefits, and, casual hooking up and one night stands. But each of those terms also mean a different thing. It might mean something to me, and it might mean something else to you. So without communication, we can't really work out exactly what you need and what you don't want and all of those things. So communicate. It's actually really interesting that whenever we talk about these, particularly friends with benefits kind of situations, particularly because there's that friend quality into the relationship already, which means there's already an emotional bond there. So then for that emotional bond to kind of develop further, it's much easier than, say, one night stand kind of getting more emotional. Lack of give and take, that one person is giving more, is visible in parent-child relationships, friendships, friends with benefits, marriages. In any kind of relationship that you want to look at, it's there. But we tend to only talk about it when it comes to this kind of more casual sexual relationship. How do we notice that ourselves? Are we giving too much? I did that. My previous marriage, I think I gave about 85%, which is ridiculous, but I did it for 12 years and I didn't notice. It's sensationalized that the less we get back and the more we give, the better we are, which is utter garbage. It's utter garbage, right? We only give 50% and we have to get the other 50% back. End of story. There is no male-female boundaries to this. There's no gender roles to this. But if you find yourself in that situation, in a sexual romantic relationship, get out. Even if it's for a one night stand, even if it's for a 5-minute thing, it has to be healthy for both people.
I've been there, enjoyed it, but then there comes a time where you think it's time to settle down for you, or be a bit more aware of the consequences and stuff like that, without making it too complicated. I think we as humans, when it comes to that bonding and connecting, especially people like me, gets a bit too dramatic. Why, when two people they agree to be friends with benefits at the beginning, but once the beginning passes the beginning, it's not the beginning anymore. And I think if you are aware of it, then you realize, there might be a bit more happening, but unless you still keep that distance and you only meet up to be beneficial in that way and all that, but sometimes you miss the companionship, and then you go a bit more, and then you can get lost in it. It won't always go there because you tend to stop yourself from going there, And I think a lot of the time, a lot of us get so scared, so that's why we tend to this thing. And also another thing is, when you're having friends with benefits, it's not only them you have. So there are other complications that can arise as well. It's all about communicating and knowing that you actually meet there and actually realizing that you can meet there. So it takes a bit of experimenting as well. So when you agree to do it, you go into it, then you can see how you react. I'm talking like this because it's happened to me. So I've reacted in a very negative way. So if you're aware of that and you can work on those things and you can say, okay, let's try. Or you meet someone else and say, okay, let's try it like this. And you also are aware, not reacting like that, and also make them aware of not react like this, because that's how you can also feel. It is a process for some, but for some it's very easy. So it's about how we handle it, you know.
The way we deal with trauma, so a lot of our childhood things that happen to us. So the way we translate that into adulthood is that we try to seek love, right? But when you undergo an abuse or whatever, there is a tendency for you to kind of attract that again, because you feel that is that love you deserve, and you don't have control. Narcissists are narcissists for everybody, right? Without discrimination, right? But a person who stays put with a narcissist is because that everybody else will be like, go, no, this is like, what are you doing? And they will cut them off. But the person who suffers narcissism is that person who keeps on thinking that is the love they deserve, or that is that environment that they are so used to. Because a lot of us don't know what our definition of love is. So many of us have abandonment issues, a lot of trauma, a lot of physical, emotional abuse from their childhood. And actually, I noticed that they subconsciously, it's not intentional, that's the kind of thing that they kind of end up attracting, and they're staying with it.
There are people like heartless. You can't even call them heartless. Maybe it's the situation of what they've gone through and why they're reacting like that. So maybe it does exist. But is it because they don't really give a... I don't think so, I think it's just the situation of why you are molded like that, why you have taught yourself or told yourself, this is how I'm going to protect myself. Within that, again, what happens is when it's overly done, it comes out with narcissism because you are not aware.
But that's also social conditioning, right? So it's not that women are more likely to have those feelings. It's women are more likely to immediately notice those feelings because we are brought up to notice our emotions and to have more empathy. When men feel those emotions, they shut it down. So they don't explore them. They don't take them out and look at them and explore them. If a person within the first couple of months can't work out how awesome you are, time isn't really going to kind of help. That's just not how kind of people work. So pouring more time, more effort, more love, more whatever, energy, if it's unhealthy for you at now, it's not going to get healthy later. So walk away. I love saying that. I love saying for most things, if it's not good, I myself have been a homeless mother with 2 children. It's definitely not easy to enact it. It's really tough, but it's so worth it. Oddly enough, I think we are throwing the terms around a little too much, but at the same time, so much not. Our generation is sitting on a very precarious place in time because our awareness for mental health, our awareness for toxicity, most, if not all, previous generations. But at the same time, we grew up very much programmed into those behaviors, right? So men and women of our generation still behave in those ways, still do those things to people, but we now have words to use, right? There is a certain amount of misuse of terminology. There is a certain amount of misunderstanding of terminology, but we need that now because we need the conversations to keep going. It's only by keeping the conversations going that we can really start to eradicate it from, I don't know whether I'm being optimistic by saying next generation, but at least the generation after. The only thing we can do better is personally to learn a bit more and to really think about, am I doing these things within my romantic relationships, sexual relationships, friend relationships, my parents, my children, whatever.
Personally, I'm not a fan. I have not used Bumble, Tinder, anything. I do have my Instagram, which is a public Instagram profile. So some of the people I have been with, I have met through there, which I think for me personally, it works best because I am extremely me. I mean, I am unshaved armpits there and I have my period blood there. So any man or woman who is approaching me has to be on par with that.
Yeah, I mean, even while I was getting divorced, I had what I call my Tinder rampage, best 2 weeks of my life. It wasn't like how it sounds. It's just I'd lost confidence after 12 years of marriage. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know whether I had anything really to offer to a dating market type of thing. So I went on 12 consecutive dates on 12 days, like 12 dates on 12 days. And it was so good to meet and that's what I love about dating apps. The diversity of people you can meet is phenomenal. But then I did meet my current husband on Facebook, so I don't know whether that counts as well as online dating, but I don't know. But yeah, explore every avenue. What have you got to lose?
I know Tinder, and funnily enough, I know Grindr. Dating apps are really, really misunderstood. I think because society has made it something to just meet and hook up. Does it work? Yes, because some of my friends, I know two friends, and we played at their wedding as well. I'm not going to name anyone. They met through Tinder. I see them now, and they're like happy couple.
Don't be ashamed of it. You're an adult. If this is what you think is right for your life, that's the only opinion that really matters.
Once you also do your research, meet them, go and talk to them, and make sure you're in a social environment and see how they are and how you react to certain things in that social environment while you're together.
Sometimes misunderstand or misinterpret love as being selfless. It is not. To seek that companionship outside yourself, you first really need to be grounded in yourself. Sometimes when that doesn't happen, you tend to seek stimulation from these other parties, and that usually ends up being bad for you. We mean media, we say, okay, if it's friends with, all the friends with benefits films that we have seen end up with the people loving and having babies and marriage and all of that. Does not need to happen like that. I can still bring soup to you if you're in bed, upset, and I know that, you are not able, but that doesn't mean I need to marry you. I'm just being a good human being. I'm just being kind and compassionate to a friend. I do that to a friend. So that I think that we see a lot, and that really stops people from having a really good time. Because, we are like always expecting, I don't know if that other person will think I want to marry them if I, be nice to them. No, be very verbal.